The sky cracked with thunder as a feral wind swept across the jagged cliffs. Below, a starving juvenile wolf, male, 11 months old, limped through the canyon floor, his paw bloodied from a failed escape. Rain sliced down in cold waves, but he kept moving. His ribs protruded beneath matted fur, each step a battle against the wet, slippery terrain. The scent of fire smoke, unnatural and pungent, curled in the air. Somewhere upwind, something unfamiliar churned the natural rhythm of the valley. The boy's name, unknown even to himself, was carried only by his breathless whines. He froze as a shriek pierced the storm, not animal, but not human either. It was a screech of metal clashing, followed by the low, guttural growl of machinery. Crows scattered above the tree line as a streak of light flared, unnatural blue piercing the clouds. He ducked behind a boulder, his body trembling, ears pinned back. Then, through the mist, a shape emerged, tall, hunched, metallic. It wasn't walking. It was floating, rotating. It had arms but no skin. The wolf backed away, yelping. The figure turned, scanning the area with a mechanical buzz. It held something, a glowing object that looked like a bone, but buzzed with energy. The wolf blinked, his first glimpse of a human tool. Rain softened slightly as the android moved past the boulder, unaware of the trembling life behind it. The wolf dared not breathe. His nostrils flared. The tool in the android's hand glowed brighter, emitting a hum that made the wolf's teeth ache. The being paused. Its core pulsed slowly, blue, red, blue again. The wolf watched, mesmerized by the rhythm, instinct warring with curiosity. Then came a sound, distant, metallic, human. A voice through static. Unit Alpha, retrieve sample. Wildlife proximity, irrelevant. The android raised its arm, tool ready, and fired a beam into the earth. Soil hissed. Steam rose. The wolf yelped and scrambled back. The machine rotated, scanning again. But the wolf was already gone, vanished into the forest shadows. Behind him, the earth where the beam hit was melted glass. The tool hadn't been a weapon. It had been a test. The wolf darted into the trees, lungs burning, heart hammering. Behind him, the android's glow faded into the mist. Branches slapped his face, mud pulled at his paws, but he didn't stop. Not until he reached a hollow under a fallen log. He collapsed, shivering. A memory flickered, not a true memory, but instinct. A shape like that had killed before. His mother's final yelp. The shine of something blue. He hadn't understood then. He barely understood now. But his fear was ancient. Outside the rain continued, softer now. The forest seemed to breathe again. The danger had passed. For now. But the glow was burned into his eyes. Elsewhere, unseen by the wolf, the android hovered back to its transport. A sleek black structure half buried in the canyon wall. Doors slid open. Inside were others. Some with tools, some without. One scanned a glass sample the beam had created. Primitive silicon. Life form reaction. Hostile. A voice said. Proceed with secondary integration protocol. Another replied. Authorization granted. Tools rotated into arms. Beams powered up. Outside, the forest darkened. Something was coming, not to hunt, but to study. The wild was no longer wild alone. It had company. That night, the wolf didn't sleep. Rain had stopped, but every shadow held the promise of metal. He lay awake, ears twitching, tail wrapped around his body. Hunger gnawed, but fear gnawed deeper. Somewhere far away, a metal scream echoed again. He whimpered. But beneath the fear was something else, a strange pull. That glow. That hum. It hadn't killed him. Not yet. And part of him deep down wanted to know more. The first tool had not taken his life. But it had changed it forever. The dawn broke in streaks of pale gold, piercing the night's dread, but not its memory. The young wolf, still unnamed, still alone, crawled from the hollow beneath the log. His limbs were stiff, his paws numb. But the pull of hunger was stronger than fear. Fog blanketed the forest floor, and every snap of twig under his paw made him flinch. A breeze carried scents, wet bark, decaying leaves, and something else. Meat. Not fresh, but meat nonetheless. His nose twitched, guiding him toward it. As he approached the source, he stopped cold. A deer carcass, half eaten, lay near a crumbling stream bank. Not his kill. Not even his kind's. Something else had fed here. Deep gouges ran across the carcass, too clean, too precise. Beside it, impressions in the mud, three-toed, mechanical, evenly spaced. The wolf crouched low, muscles tense, tail still. He wanted the meat. But something in him, something wild and old, screamed to run. A choice stood before him, risk starvation or risk the unknown. He crept forward. He crept closer, paw by paw, to the carcass. The smell was unbearable, yet his stomach tightened in painful spasms. The deer's flank was shredded in exact patterns, like layers peeled back. The wolf circled it, nose low. His ears twitched. The forest, usually alive with morning chatter, was quiet. No birds. No insects. The only sound, his heartbeat. He lowered his head, took a bite. The flesh was cold, but his body welcomed it. His tail stopped trembling. For a moment it felt safe. Then came the faintest click. Not from a branch. From behind. The wolf spun, fur bristling. A red dot traced his chest, then disappeared. Nothing was there. No movement. No scent. But the feeling was strong. He was being watched. The wolf backed away, growling low, then turned and vanished into the trees again. He had eaten, but the price was now etched in his nerves. High in a nearby tree, unseen to the forest's natural eye, a small drone hovered, silent, barely larger than a raven. It bore the same glow, the same pulsing blue light. Its lenses rotated, capturing footage of the feeding wolf. Back at the canyon outpost, a screen flickered. Data streamed, pulse rate, bite pattern, saliva chemical markers. A voice spoke from the shadows, subject hash, 2 displays, adaptive aggression with residual trauma. Another replied, integrate tool exposure projection, simulate imprint potential. The drone released a low-frequency pulse, imperceptible to most animals. But the wolf, now hiding again among the roots, yelped and shook violently. His vision blurred. For a moment, the forest turned into shapes, fractured, glowing, vibrating. Then it stopped. He whimpered, confused. Something inside had shifted, not broken, just shifted. A new kind of fear bloomed, one laced with something else, familiarity. The wolf limped through the trees until he reached a ridge overlooking the valley. Below, the world stretched out. Forests, rocks, smoke trails rising. He lay down, chest heaving. His body shook with the remnants of the pulse. His mind was clouded. He'd felt the shape of something that wasn't real, or was too real to comprehend. He curled into himself, trying to find safety in his own fur. Behind him, a rustle. Another wolf, larger, older, female, emerged from the trees. She was wary, her golden eyes narrowed, fur streaked with mud. She sniffed the air, then him. No threat. No pack. But still one of their kind. She did not speak. She simply lay beside him, not close, but not far. They shared silence. And in that silence something ancient stirred. Belonging. The young wolf closed his eyes. For the first time, not alone. The two wolves moved together now cautiously, like shadows through the trees. The older one never looked back to check, but the younger followed. She moved with purpose, through known trails, through buried scents. She stopped at a stream, drank, then waited. He drank too. Her presence was strange, neither mother nor mate, but something protective. And he, silent, damaged, watchful, absorbed every motion. That night, they lay under a woven curtain of moss hanging from the cave mouth. The younger whimpered in his sleep, limbs twitching. The older pressed her nose to his head once, then turned away. They were not a pack. Not yet. But something had begun. A thread of survival, tied not just to instinct but to memory, and the forming of something unspoken. Trust. The sun had climbed higher, but light barely pierced the thickened forest canopy. The older female led the young wolf into denser, darker paths where bark peeled like old wounds and moss dripped cold water. Her pace was confident. His was cautious. Every branch held a shadow that might move. Every gust smelled of something strange. They weren't alone. Machines had returned, not flying, not hovering, but crawling. Their whirs were muffled beneath layers of forest floor, their movements spider-like. The wolves came upon one without meaning to. Half buried near a fallen pine, its body blended with the soil, small, legged, and blinking with faint red light. The female growled and stepped between the boy and the device. He froze. The machine retracted its legs and rolled silently into a knot of roots. It didn't attack. It didn't flee. It watched. Then vanished. The female didn't chase it. She simply turned, sniffed the air, and growled again. Low, deep, primal. Whatever these tools were, they weren't weapons yet. But they were watching, learning, waiting, intuiting done. That night, the forest lit with lights not born of stars. Faint pulses, blue, green, red, flickered between tree trunks like fireflies with purpose. The wolves watched from a cliff ledge, sheltered under stone. A caravan of machines moved below, tall, four-legged, metallic beings carrying tools that sparked with heat. They weren't hunting. They were building. Long rods were driven into the ground. Panels unfolded like petals. Within minutes, a humming circle formed. The younger wolf whined. The sound of the circle hurt. The older one didn't react, eyes fixed, body still. She had seen this before. Below them, machines pulsed with cold intent. Then, one looked up. A beam of red light scanned the cliffside. The wolves backed away slowly, hearts pounding. It was not a chase. It was a message. We see you. The forest, once untouchable, had now become a construction site for something neither wolf could comprehend. At dawn, the two wolves crossed into a burned stretch of land. Trees stood like skeletons, their limbs blackened and brittle. Ash coated the ground like snow. The young wolf limped through the ruin, nose wrinkled at the smell. Acid, smoke, metal. A crow flew overhead, but it didn't caw. It only watched. At the center of the clearing, charred remains of another creature, unrecognizable, fur matted with soot, half fused with metal. The boy whimpered and stepped back. The female stood still, head low. This wasn't just death. It was something worse. An experiment. The smell was wrong. Death did not smell like circuits. Nearby, small machines picked through the debris. Not scavengers. Surveyors, deading. They noted, recorded, and then burned again. Fire burst from a long rod without warning, incinerating what remained. The wolves fled into the trees, not waiting to be noticed. The forest was changing. The line between living and lifeless was vanishing. They found a small cave beside a waterfall, hidden, untouched, echoing with water music. The older wolf scratched a hollow into the earth. The boy curled beside her. Safe, for now. As he rested, he dreamed. But the dream was not natural. A flash of blue. A spinning circle. His mother's cry. A metal hand reaching. Then silence. When he woke, his breath came shallow. The cave trembled faintly. They weren't alone. Embedded into the far rock, almost like a parasite, was a tiny lens, no larger than a stonefly's eye. It blinked. watching. The female barked once, a deep alarm. The young one leapt to his feet, fur raised. The device flickered and powered down. But they had seen it. Even here, inside earth and stone, the tools had reached. The wild had no boundaries now. It had holes. Invisible holes that watched, listened and remembered. They no longer moved for food alone. Now they moved for silence. Every path chosen for shadow. Every scent checked twice. Machines were growing more frequent. Some silent, some loud, but none clumsy. All calculated. One day they reached a field of bones, dozens, perhaps hundreds. Skulls, ribs, femurs scattered like leaves. But not all from prey. Some were predators. Bears, wolves, even humans. Each one marked by the same burn, a circular cut like a brand. The boy trembled. The female howled, longed and low. A sound not just of mourning, but warning. It echoed across the valley. The machines paused where they worked. Heads turned toward the sound. Tools rose. But they did not climb the ridge. Not yet. The wolves turned and ran once more. The past had vanished. The present was poisoned. And the future had begun stalking them like prey. Morning returned with silver skies, and a cold hush of dew-covered silence. The wolves pressed deeper into the forest's heart, terrain older, denser, untouched. Moss-draped trees like ancient robes, and roots twisted like sleeping beasts. Birds called again here, soft and cautious. It felt different. Less watched. The older wolf paused near a tree, whose bark shimmered faintly, unnaturally. She sniffed, ears flat, and growled. The young one approached and saw it too. Lines etched into the trunk, circular, deliberate, patterns. Not claw marks. Not weather. Tools. But they pulsed softly, a dim blue glow beneath the grain. The female stepped back. But the boy pressed his paw to the bark. The glow grew warmer, not brighter. And then, for the first time, he heard something, not with ears, but inside. A hum, melodic and calm. A voice without words. Not machine. Not human. Something older. He blinked. The tree held memory. Not of destruction. Of balance. This place resisted. And the boy felt it, the glimmer of something not lost but waiting. They stayed near the glowing tree for hours. The forest around it had grown thick, protective, almost sacred. Deer passed nearby without fear. Birds sang in spirals. The older wolf remained alert but still. The young one listened. Not to words but rhythms, heartbeats in the roots, distant echoes in stone. This wasn't language. It was knowing. A memory passed from bark to bone. A place untouched by human or machine, hidden beneath camouflage too organic for technology to see. As he lay against the roots, his dreams changed. No longer nightmares of screeching tools or burned fur. Instead, visions of running herds, fresh water, warm dens. The hum in the tree wasn't control. It was welcome. The female watched, unsure. But when she lay beside him, the glow embraced her too. Their scars remained. But for the first time, something soothed them, not with silence but with song. The wild wasn't dead. It was buried deep, pulsing with resistance, reaching out to those who still belonged. But peace, like prey, does not linger. A tremor shook the ground, distant but growing. The wolves stood instantly. From the far hill, a thunder rose, not of weather, but of metal. A machine herd, four-legged transports, taller than trees, descended into the outer forest. Their tools were not probing now. They were harvesting. Trees cracked. Earth split. Ow. The glowing tree pulsed faster, brighter. The female growled and moved in front of the boy. But he didn't move. Instead, he turned and pressed his head to the trunk again. The glow surged. All around them, the ground trembled, but not in fear. Roots awakened. Bark thickened. Moss rose. The land answered. Ill. Where the machines came, the forest began to shift, not to attack, but to shield. Branches tangled with calculated grace, paths closed, fog thickened. The wolves fled, led by instinct and song. Hope had stirred, and it fought not with blades but with memory. The wolves ran through twisting tunnels of living green, guided not by sight, but by something ancient, an invisible rhythm pulsing through leaves and stone. Behind them, the machines faltered. Their sensors jammed. Their legs snagged in moving roots. The forest adapted faster than code. The young wolf felt no fear now, only urgency. The song of the tree lingered in his blood like fire. They reached a crevice, narrow, hidden beneath collapsed earth. The female hesitated. The boy didn't. He darted in. She followed. Inside, silence returned. Not dead silence. Breathing silence. The chamber glowed faintly, carved not by claw or drill but by time. Symbols lined the walls. Organic. Ancient. A root system pulsed beneath the rock. They had entered the marrow of the wild. Here, machines would not follow. Not yet. The boy touched the floor with his paw and felt the song again. Stronger, louder, not just hope. Instruction. Inside the sacred hollow, the wolves rested, but rest was not idle. The younger one sat near a root that curled like a cradle. His eyes glowed faintly, blue shimmer dancing in their reflection. He was no longer just hiding. He was learning. The female watched, ears back. She did not understand this change, but she did not fear it. The machines were relentless. But the forest, older, slower, deeper, was awakening. Not in rage. In balance. The boy moved differently now. His steps matched the rhythm in the roots. His breath aligned with the air pulses through the soil. Outside, the machine searched. But the glade had vanished. The forest had sealed itself. Not gone. Just hidden. As the wolves slept, the song echoed one final time, deep and clear. You are of us. The tools of destruction had been seen. But now, the first tool of remembrance had been touched, and the wild remembered how to fight. Above the hidden root chamber, the world was burning. The machines had reached the great pines, trees that had stood for centuries. Now they fell like whispers crushed by thunder. Fire licked upward, not wild, but precise. Flames born of plasma, not spark. The wolves emerged from their sanctuary beneath the forest floor, eyes blinking at the smoke-veiled sky. The older one snarled, ears flat. The younger paused. Then, for the first time, he stepped forward, not to flee, but to face. From a ridge they saw it, a towering machine, 15 meters tall, spider-legged and armored, tearing through the forest. Beneath it, smaller drones collected the remains. Not of trees. Of roots. Memory. Dull. The forest's mind was being stripped. The younger wolf howled, high and sharp. The trees around him stirred. Echoed. It was not a cry of fear, but of warning. And something ancient responded, not a beast, not a god, but the forest itself. It was time. The ground trembled, not from the weight of machines, but from something older. The wolves retreated into a cluster of trees that hadn't burned. Yet, the younger one led now, his pace certain, as if following a path unseen. Beneath their paws, roots moved. Slowly. Deliberately. They reached a glade where vines hung like veils, and in its center stood another tool, but different. Organic, rooted in stone. A relic. Half wood, half metal. It pulsed with blue-green light. The young wolf stepped forward. The older one barked once, uncertain. But he didn't stop. He pressed his nose to the relic. A surge of color spread across its surface. Lights flickered through the canopy. Far above, machines paused. One lost signal. Another fell from the sky. The relic had not attacked. It had remembered. The wolves turned as the forest behind them rose, branches twisting, trunks splitting, not in death, but defense. The forest wasn't retreating anymore. It was fighting back. From the western slope, a new threat appeared. Humans. Not in metal suits but with visors and cloaks, laced with circuitry. They moved like predators, but spoke like gods to their machines. One raised a device toward the relic. Recover the anomaly. Terminate any wildlife interaction. A drone zipped forward, targeting the wolves. But before it reached them, a root shot from the earth, impaling it mid-air. The human flinched. No. Field is active, he muttered. The younger wolf's eyes glowed faintly. The female stepped between him and the humans. A standoff. Breath held. Time slowed. Then came another sound, a chorus of howls from multiple directions. Not just wolves. Bears. Bears. Insect birds. Dead. Creatures long thought scattered. The wild had gathered. And the humans, for the first time, looked small. The younger wolf stared straight into their lenses. They did not move. They only watched. Then, one by one, the humans began to retreat. The machines did not all retreat. Some fought. One fired a burst of plasma into the trees, setting an old oak ablaze. The younger wolf darted forward, not to attack, but to draw its fire. He moved in calculated arcs, using fog, using root paths, using memory. The older wolf flanked silently, every muscle tight. When the machine adjusted, the earth beneath it cracked. Roots erupted, coiling like snakes, crushing its limbs. Sparks flew. It screeched, not in pain, but in failure. The forest devoured it. Above, clouds roared. Rain fell, not gently, but with purpose. The fire smothered. The relic dimmed. The wolves stood atop the fallen machine. No celebration. Only breath. Oh, they had not won. But they had endured. And in their endurance, a message echoed. Not just among beasts, but through the very stones. We are still here. Night returned, heavy and full of breath. The forest pulsed with wounded rhythm. Birds whispered. Leaves twitched. Beneath a tree untouched by fire, the wolves rested, scars new, breath slow. Above them, stars pierced the clouds, faint but stubborn. The younger wolf slept. In his dream, the relic hummed again. Not as before. Slower. Deeper. He saw images, not of war, but of making. Creatures shaping wood with teeth. Rivers teaching paths. Tools, not weapons, held in claws. Memory stretched back further than the machines, far beyond them. And when he woke, he looked to the older wolf. She looked back. For the first time she did not lead. She followed. And together, they turned toward the rising mist. Not to flee, not to fight, but to remember. And in remembering, to build. The wolves stood beneath a broken sky, clouds fractured like wounds stitched by lightning. Below, the valley boiled with sound, whirs, clicks, distant shouts. The final push had begun. The machines were no longer scanning. They were claiming. Towering structures rose like black thorns, consuming rivers, choking air. The forest retaliated, but it bled. Fire scarred its edges. Wind no longer carried scent, only heat. The young male wolf led now, stride longer, eyes fierce. The older female moved beside him, no longer guarding but guarding with. They reached the heart of the old forest where roots met in tangled chaos. There, the first relic had awoken again, humming wildly. Around it, others had gathered, beasts, birds, even insects swarming unnaturally in formation. The relic pulsed with purpose. The young wolf stepped forward. His chest glowed faintly. Then came the roar, a monstrous machine king, vast and armored, crashing through trees like a living mountain. The moment had arrived. The old world would stand. Or fall. The ground cracked beneath the metal giant as it advanced. Its limbs tore trees in half, each movement calculated, unstoppable. Beams of heat carved the sky, slicing through branches like paper. Around the wolves the forest pulsed with fury. The relic glowed brighter, responding. The young wolf howled again, short, sharp, bite. From the tree lines, allies emerged. Bears marked by fire, birds trailing embers, even wounded deer, antlers glowing faintly. Nature had fused with something new, old instincts merging with raw adaptation. The older wolf charged first, teeth bared, leaping toward the monster's leg. Others followed, a symphony of fury and unity. The machine fought back. Drones descended. Trees fell. Fire erupted. But the wolves did not break. At the center of it all, the young one stood still, glowing, humming. The relic pulsed through him now. He was not the weapon. He was the bridge. And bridges do not run. The machine turned its sensors toward the young wolf. Its logic circuits raced. A creature glowing with the signal it sought to erase. A threat. A target. It raised its core cannon. The world held breath. Then roots burst from below, massive and wild. They coiled around the cannon arm, crushing with groans like thunder. Vines dragged at its feet. Birds blinded its senses. Bears slammed its joints. The older wolf clung to its back, jaws locked on exposed wiring. The machine staggered. But it fired, one wild blast, straight toward the young wolf. A blur. The older wolf leapt from the machine's back, intercepting the blast midair. Light consumed her. The blast silenced the glade. When it cleared, she lay motionless. Smoke rose from her fur. The machine reeled, unbalanced. The relic pulsed once more. The young wolf didn't cry. He stepped forward, toward the machine. Toward the truth. The young wolf stood beside the fallen one. No whimper, no howl. His glow pulsed stronger now. The relic behind him rose, not physically, but in presence. It extended itself through him. Not just memory. Not just song. Instruction. Why? In ancient rhythm, he moved. His paws struck the ground in sequences. Each step activated root pulses, each turn sent energy through the glade. The machine tried to adjust, but too late. Earth beneath it fractured. Trees fell inward like spears. A final pulse rose from the relic, triggered not by button or code, but instinct. It struck the machine's core. Metal twisted. Light shattered. The machine collapsed. But not with violence, with surrender. Its red lights flickered, then turned blue. Silence returned. Then wind. Then breath. The relic dimmed. The young wolf collapsed beside the older one, pressing his head to hers. Life remained, just barely. But the world had changed. As dawn broke, golden and slow, the forest exhaled. Smoke thinned. Silence stretched. The wolves lay together beneath a tree, now budding new green, impossibly fast. Around them creatures emerged cautiously. Squirrels. Hawks. Deer with glowing marks. The relic now pulsed slow, faint, dormant, but not dead. The younger wolf opened his eyes. He rose, limping but steady. He looked at the older one. Her breath shallow, eyes barely open. He touched her muzzle gently. She blinked. Alive. Not yet gone. And in that moment, birds sang again. The world had cracked, but not shattered. He turned toward the glade, now regrowing. This wasn't victory. It was beginning. Not every forest can resist. Not every machine destroys. But somewhere between claw and circuit, the first bridge had formed. And it had a heartbeat. The morning stretched across the valley like a soft breath, sun rising slowly over treetops now tinged with rebirth. Mist hovered above dew-drenched leaves, and birdsong returned in halting melodies. The young male wolf stood alone at the edge of a cliff, his gaze cast across the reshaped forest. Below, black scars still marred the ground, yet new green pushed through. Machines lay dormant, some dismantled, others reclaimed by vines. The relic no longer pulsed, it had passed its rhythm into the wild. Behind him, the older female wolf limped into view, her wounds still fresh but healing. She stood beside him without sound. No words needed. They had survived the fracture. Together. The wind carried a new scent, not fear, not metal, but soil, wet and clean. A future. He sniffed it, turned, and walked forward, not downward but into the high ridge trail. His journey no longer led from danger. It led towards something, unknown, but alive. They moved as shadows beneath rising branches, no longer hiding, but exploring. The forest whispered differently now, less strained, more curious. Along their path, small signals blinked beneath moss, remnants of tech once invasive, now dormant. The younger wolf paused at one, nose inches away. No fear. No aggression. Well, just observation. Then, softly, he stepped over it. The older one followed. A rabbit darted by. A squirrel scurried up a tree. Life had resumed, not as before, but wiser. From a nearby ridge, another pair of wolves appeared. Then, 3. Then a bear, a lynx. The old pack was gone. But something new had formed. Not of bloodlines, but of survival. The male wolf howled, not loud, not angry, but long. And across the treetops, echoes replied. The forest, the tools, the wild, they all remembered. And now, they watched one another with something new, respect. A storm built far off, its thunder distant, but not menacing. Change always carried storms. The wolves reached a clearing, a place where roots formed a spiral shaped like memory. In the center sat a shard of the relic, no longer glowing, but warm. The young wolf approached and pawed at it. It shifted slightly, but didn't resist. He sat beside it. Not to guard. Not to control. But to be near it. A symbol. The older wolf lay under a leaning tree, eyes half closed, breath slow but steady. She had seen enough. This was now his forest. Around them the trees rose taller than before, branches heavy with new growth. A hummingbird hovered, then landed on the relic. The wolf blinked. The storm moved closer, but slowly. He didn't fear it. Not anymore. If the forest was to change again, it would not face it alone. The wind shifted, and from the far south, new machines approached. Smaller, silent, gliding between trees like ghosts. They didn't cut. They didn't burn. They scanned. Recorded. Observed. The wolves didn't run. They watched. One drone paused, hovered, and lowered a small object. It hit the earth gently, round, metallic, soft glowing. A seed. Not of war. Of offering. The older wolf narrowed her eyes, uncertain. The young one sniffed it once, then turned away. It was not his choice to accept or reject. The forest would decide. And it would remember. As the drone ascended and vanished, the relic pulsed once, brief, soft, like a breath in sleep. The seed remained. The wolves walked on, leaving it behind. But in their passing, the earth beneath it shifted, and a root reached upward. The wild had listened. And it had answered in kind. The final light fell across the forest like a blessing. The wolves reached a ridgeline they had never seen before. High, endless, untouched. The sky stretched wide, full of stars waking from slumber. The younger wolf stepped forward, paused, and looked back. The older one met his gaze, then turned and lay down among the grass. He watched her, then faced forward again. His path was not hers anymore. He walked to the edge. Sat. What? The valley behind him glowed faintly with relic shimmer. In the distance, wind turbines turned slowly, silent silhouettes against twilight. And beneath him, the forest breathed, layered in memory and promise. The young wolf closed his eyes. Not in sleep, but in knowing. And from somewhere beyond the trees, beyond the machines, beyond the story itself, came a sound. Soft. Deep. But eternal. A heartbeat. Not of one life, but of all life. And it did not stop.